Okay, no, I know I said my army was going to be done this week. It's not. It's really close, but it's not quite done, and I feel like I got to give it my all before I show it off on this channel. So today I'm going to do what we're all so good at. I'm going to procrastinate a little and talk about something that, well, affects my army pictures that I'm going to be taking. So stick around. With all of the 3D printing that you can do for tabletop war games now, like One Page Rules has, I don't even know, like 30 different armies you can 3D print now. And Warmachine is releasing a lot of their Legion armies from in the past, right? Which is so cool for anyone who wants to get into Warmachine, who wants to do it really, really cheap and have really, really good looking models, because they're amazing. Okay, but a lot of times the question comes up of, is it worth getting into 3D printing? And the models are the huge selling point with 3D printing. They really, really are. Okay, but today I'm going to talk about a couple of other things that I think are really, really cool for 3D printing. And those things are simple. Okay, they are 3D printing bases. Because, I mean, if you're going to 3D print models, you need bases. If you're going to do D&D and need to print out all these files of all these different characters, you need bases. Bases are a big thing, and it's one of those things that people hate to spend money on because it's not the model. It's not this cool thing. It's literally just a piece of plastic that you put your miniatures on. And you can print them. There's two types of printing, right? There's FDM, which is when you print with plastic, and it's relatively safe in your home. And then there's resin, which you print with liquid, and it's relatively safe to do in your home with a lot of caveats. Okay, so both of them are pretty good. FDM printers are fun just because you can print really big things, and so for if you want to get into wargaming but you don't want to print miniatures, jump on an FDM printer. They're fantastic, they're great, and they're pretty cheap as far as things go. But how is their quality? Well, let me show you with some bases. Okay, so this is a standard Warmachine base. It's got that nice bevel, got their logo on the bottom. It's got this, I'm assuming it's supposed to be just like dirt in case you don't want to do anything. You can just dry brush that or do whatever and make it look like dirt, which I appreciate. I actually really like that. So the question is, where do 3D prints stand in comparison to this? Okay, and I'm printing on a much older printer, so the quality now is even better than this. But here are 3 examples of bases that I have printed, and don't pay attention to the scruff marks on this one. It was a bad roll of filament. Anyway, when they print and they come out, the top, I mean, you're going to cover it most of the time. You're going to put something on it, so I feel like the top shouldn't matter too much. What you're really going to look at is that edge. Okay, and as you can see, they got hairs coming off of this older one. It's pretty smooth. I mean, if you do the bevel or something like this, and this is pointed at a 0.2 layer height, so it's not even as small as they go. It's pretty smooth. And honestly, with a little bit of sanding, you could get that edge pretty much perfect. Now, is it worth it to you to save the money to print something out like this? And here I'll show the other ones. The black, you can see it a lot better. The layer lines, they're there. Okay, they're there. There's things that you can do to get rid of those. And this white one, it's kind of shows up really, really bright, but you can see it against my finger. The layer lines are not terrible. Okay, if you spray it with a sandable primer, it really fills in that stuff and gives you a pretty clean edge. And sandable primer isn't that much more. And this is unsanded. It's not like I've sanded this. This is just sprayed with that primer. Okay, so pretty quick, pretty simple, easy fix. One of the things that I love about printing bases is that you can do stuff like this. This is wood from a dock, right? You got a gun, you got coins, you got all sorts of cool stuff. And granted, you have to have the files for something like this, but they're all over the place. Not too hard to find. Easy ones that you can find that are free, cobblestones. And granted, this is not cleaned up, but It just depends on what you want to do with it. FDM has come a long way. And I mean, these are FDM. The resin prints are fantastic. I just don't think it's worth it. When I can print this for 5 cents, well, I print one for 30. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the bases for FDM. And now you might be thinking, I don't need bases. Why would I ever want to get a 3D printing? Well, it's not just bases that you can 3D print. Like I said, there's the models, there is terrain, I saw somebody today who did an awesome kit bash where they put spiders. You can 3D print little spiders and you can put them on your models. So tons of stuff that you can do. But you might be wondering, what does this have to do with your army? It is not a 3D printed army based off of the pictures that you've shown, and you would be correct. And I don't need any bases because models come with bases when I buy them. So what do I need a 3D printer for? Well, I am trying to up my game as a YouTube content creator, especially for taking pictures. And I have been trying to do a lot better job with those pictures. And I feel like I always fall short because I'm missing certain things like backdrops and cool stuff for my miniatures to be standing on when I take their pictures. Okay. And no, I'm not talking about fog machines, because I don't understand that for the life of me, why fog makes these machines cooler. Is it because they're walking in smoke and that's cool? I don't know. I mean, is it like, cool guys don't look at explosions kind of thing?
Cool guys don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then walk away.
But you can't put explosions in miniatures, so you do smoke? I don't know. I still don't get that. And I honestly hope I never get so big that I use a smoke machine in my miniatures, because I don't think it's necessary. But anyway, that's just me. But having something to stand them on that also doubles as terrain for when you play the game and you want some cool hills that are cool, and you can have your miniatures climb on top of these and increase their range or become harder to hit. Yeah, why not? And especially when you can do it for so cheap. I mean, you're printing these hills and painting them and have them all done for like $1.
Everything for $1.
Like $1, right? That's pretty cool. So you might be wondering, well, they when you paint them, they don't look good because of that, blah, 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 blah. Just watch this and let me know what you think afterwards. Okay, so you 3D printed your hill. Okay, you've got your nice layer lines and everything that everyone can clearly see on the top of this. Now, if you do like ironing and stuff with your 3D print, this will definitely show up less. But I just downloaded a new slicer and I forgot to change that setting when I printed this. And ultimately I was like, you know what? Sometimes people are going to get prints that look like this anyway, so let's just go with it. So I primed it black, as you can see, because it was originally white. And this thing took about 5 hours to 3D print. And it's pretty sturdy. Like, it's a nice piece for playing with. It's light. It didn't take a ton of filament. And I mean, to print it, it costs $2, right? So you can't you can't go wrong. And anyway, I thought, well, let's paint this little guy and see if we can make it look better, because I have my army that I am trying to finish for this channel. And it's almost there. It's almost there. But I learned a few things that I thought I would share while I was painting this. And first things first, these apple barrel paints, they're the 50-cent paints that you can get at like Walmart or, your local hobby store. They're usually really, really cheap, 50 cents to like 70 cents maybe. And I used to only use these, and then I learned that they are terrible. For a lot of things. Some of them are good. The jet black is freaking fantastic. I use it for all of my bases because I feel like it's cheap, it's easy, it's a good black to use for that. Anyway, back to this rule of thumb with these paints: the thicker they are, the less pigment they have. And so to make up for that, they make a lot thicker of a paint. And what I mean by that is this paint right here, this sludge that is not moving when I tilt this, that's a really thick medium. that I'm using. But for the sake of painting FDM, it's really nice because you can use a bunch of it, get a nice little glob of it on your brush, and put it on. And just fill in those cracks with paint. And normally this would be a terrible idea because, I mean, it's just paint, right? But when it costs 50 cents and you just want to get it on the table quick, there is nothing as easy to do as this. Now, you could put down green stuff or some epoxy resin or clay or whatever you have over the top of the FDM print. Or you can even use like pink stuff, you know, that you used to patch in your walls and just glide it across the layer lines and it would just fill it in perfectly. But for the sake of this, I just wanted something quick and simple that I could throw together and get it good to go. Because honestly, I want my army done by next week, and so this thing just needed to be done and dry so I could get back to that really quick. So you can put it on as thick as you want. Another thing to know about painting FDM, the layer lines catch the paint. So if you paint across them against the grain, the paint will go into the holes and it will fill it in better. Whereas if you paint with the grain, it doesn't usually fill it in as well, and those layer lines will just keep showing up. Although the thicker the paint is, the better this is going to be. But yeah, so anyway, and there's a couple different things that you could do. You can just coat it on and just leave it nice and thick. You can dab and leave, you know, like almost a texture inside of the paint, so when it dries, it looks different. And as an example, here is a piece that I have already painted, and as you can see, it's got a lot of layer lines on it. But in the areas where I put it on thicker, the layer lines tend to disappear. Okay, so we're gonna hit this with another coat of paint, which in the end, here's kind of like the finished product. The thicker you put on that paint, the layer lines tend to disappear. And I mean, granted, you can still see them here and here because I wasn't really thinking about it until later on. But like with stuff like this, you can't see it. But it doesn't matter. We're going to be putting stuff all over the top of this, so that's not a big deal. Anyway, back to this. You're just going to want to put that paint on. And no, I would not use your hobby paint for this because what a waste. You know, this will use 25 cents to do these 3 hills just because I'm using that old crummy paint. I shouldn't say old and crummy. The apple barrel paint, which is fantastic and has a purpose. But you can put it all on the sides and just kind of mix it around and just work it in. Danny, the 3D printing DM, who was so big when I first got into this hobby, said that he loved painting FDM miniatures because of the lines, because the paint, it would hold the paint better, he said, than other ways. And I'm not going to say that I like it better, because I would definitely prefer a pristine, perfect, no layer line miniature to something else. But I can see what he's talking about how the paint just holds on because of those layer lines. But anyway, just kind of a quick, easy way to get through this. Once that's done and dry, I like to hit it with a dry brush and just lighten up some of those edges. If you want it to look like it's dark, you can do darker paints, whatever you want. But ultimately, I feel like this is just kind of like my Cliff Hills, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And when I got miniatures on it, and you're looking at those miniatures and they're just standing up on top of that, I mean, come on, that's pretty cool, right? I think so anyway. And that's it. That's my detour. That's my caveat. That is my procrastination tactic for this week. I will have the army done so I can show it off and talk about it next week and tell you a little bit more about Warmachine, because honestly, it's really cool. The company who is the custodians of it right now are really cool and doing a great job with things, and the future is bright, and I can't wait to show you more. But honestly, FDM printers, you know, printers in general, do you think it is worth having one? even if you're not 3D printing miniatures. Anyone who plays tabletop games, is it worth having a 3D printer? And if so, why? And if you don't think so, I want to know why. I really want to know what people have against. I mean, you can get these printers for $200 easily, and you can get really good ones for $400, you know, and they're not crazy expensive to upkeep. I mean, you got to pay for filament, resin, whatever it is. You got to pay for stuff. But I mean, compared to like an army, hello, you can buy one and print an army for what it costs to buy an actual army, which is crazy. And then you can print like 3 copies of that army if you wanted for you and your friends for like $10. Like, I don't want to go off in that tangent. Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for sticking around. This channel originally started as a 3D printing challenge channel, so I am very passionate about 3D printing, and I love it, and I think it's so fun, and I hope to show it off more. I've been given so much stuff with models that I haven't done a ton of 3D printing stuff, but I hope to do some more in the future and show you some more really cool things that you can do with 3D printers and your models. So if that interests you at all, please hit that like and subscribe button. Stick around. The channel is all about tabletop gaming, getting better at painting, which I've gotten much better over the last year. And if you want to know how, you can watch the last year of videos. But I honestly have, and I'm not doing anything crazy. I am just practicing and sharing the things that I learn with you here on this channel. So thank you for sticking around this long. And as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.